welcome everybody to Bhagavad Monday night Bhagavad Gita class and Kirtan. And and we just want to thank you all for coming. We really, really appreciate having you join us here, and we love your comments, so keep them coming.
Hi, Bob.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimade Sera Swarupananda Paramahamsa Iti Namine Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimade Saraswarupananda Paramahamsa Niti Namine Namasida Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakarana Swarupaya Radha Krishna Kristayate Namasida Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakarana Swarupaya Radha Krishna Kristayate Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Jayam Vishnuka Paramahansa Parivrajitasata Shishima Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnuka Paramahansa Parivrajitasatara Sata Shishima, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Guru Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhattavrinda Ki Jai. Lamacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai. Navadvita Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Mayapodam Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Mama Gina Timarandasya, Gina Gina Salakaya, Chaksurun Militanyena, Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam, Statpitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam, Tadati Swa Padantekam, Vandeham Shri Guru, Shri Yuta Parakamalan, Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha, Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatham Vitam Tam Sajevam, Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita, Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate, Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sutta Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye, Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha, Patitanam Pavenbhyo, Vaishnavabhyo, Namo Namaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Garadara, Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Siraswarupananda, Paramahansa Niti Namine, Namo Siraswarupananda, Paramahansa Namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prastayate. So before speaking, first I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagatguru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada, whose very dear Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. And I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen souls, and are full of compassion upon them. Hari Bol, Namaste. Thanks for coming, for watching. So we're continuing our discussion on Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. And so the kind of context or situation that all these particular verses we've been discussing are in is within the concept of the importance of Dharma, of doing one's duty. Dharma meaning duty or the right thing. Sometimes translated as religion. Sometimes it's translated as the law, capital letters, the law. And so really it's about duties and obligations and responsibilities. And so the whole Vedic system is based around the Varna Ashrama system, where a person has duties according to their particular status in life, the ashrama they're in, and according to their occupation. And so Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, his duty, or his Varna, is to protect, Kshat, meaning to protect. And in particular, in this situation, Arjuna was, was required to fight, to protect his family members, his loved ones, and even more so to protect the path of righteousness, or the path of Dharma. Arjuna and his brothers, Maharaj Yudhisthira and Bhima, Nakula and Sahadev, were on the side of righteousness, or Dharma. Whereas the Kurus, headed by Duryodhana, were their purpose in fighting was so that they could enjoy and exploit. They wanted to exploit the kingdom for their own benefit. Whereas Maharaj Yudhisthira, he's a righteous king, so he's feeling the obligation or the duty to perform his responsibility. And so this is the mood one should be in as we go about our particular duties in life, our own particular, what's known as swadharma, our own dharma, is we should, be in the feeling of this is my occupational duty. This is what I'm supposed to do, and it is my responsibility. It is my obligation. It is my duty, and so a king, for example, may get to enjoy certain privileges, might get to live in a palace, or may get to have a certain amount of wealth, or have large number of servants. But so the righteous king, the one who's the representative of Dharma, of Yamaraj, who's fulfilling his occupational duty, is doing it out of a sense of responsibility and duty. So it's not really like out to enjoy. It's a bit like the kind of poor examples, but like the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, is getting very old now. But when she was quite young, she imbibed the principle of duty. And so when she became the queen, she got coronated when her father, King George VI, died. She then, had to come back from Kenya or wherever she was, and she made a speech. And in this speech, she said, she very much put forward the idea that this was her duty, and that throughout her life, she would perform her service to the people of Britain and to the members of the British Commonwealth, as it was at that time. The empire was pretty much shot by then. But so, and this can be contrasted against, say, Prince Harry and Meghan and his wife, Meghan Markle, who just kind of like, well, they're over it. No, we don't want to fulfill our duty anymore. So it's too much of a hassle, too much of a burden to have to deal with the media, and they're so full of criticism and always intruding on our privacy and so on and so forth. And so we don't want to be a senior royal anymore. We'll just go and, go and make money off our reputation. And so anyway, so this is, I don't want to be too critical of them. They're just doing whatever they're doing. But it's just an example of a contrast between the ideal king, so the saintly king. So the kings are actually known as Raja Rishis. So Raja is king and a Rishi is a saintly person. So the kings, like Maharaj Yudhisthira, are described as Raja Rishis, saintly kings. So they're performing their role as a king, not out of a desire to be the enjoyer and exploiter of the kingdom, but out of a sense of duty and obligation. And then and what comes with it is a certain amount of status and so on. So but that's sort of incidental. That's not the purpose of it. Sometimes, people might be embarrassed by it. Like, why are these people paying me homage and respect? I'm actually a nobody. But because you're in that particular role, then you have to accept it, and you have to play the part. So we can all feel that actually I'm a nobody, but actually I'm having to perform my duty and play my part, and accept the the offerings or status or homage or whatever comes with it. So in fact, this is very much the attitude of the spiritual master, is that the spiritual master is feeling lower than the straw on the street. But then you have the disciples offering all these things and offerings and money and foodstuffs and service and whatever else is being offered, and the spiritual master is feeling unworthy of this, but nonetheless it's the spiritual master's responsibility or duty to accept this. They accept it on behalf of their spiritual master and Krishna, and it's good for the disciple to be offering like this, and so the spiritual master accepts the offerings. As I read on Friday night in the Nectar of Instruction, there is the exchange of the different ways that the devotees relate to each other is exchanges of love and the offering of gifts and accepting of gifts. And so the disciples shows their love for their spiritual master by offering gifts, and their spiritual master shows their reciprocation by accepting the offerings. So anyway, so this is the in Arjuna's situation and Maharaj Yudhisthira's situation. So they're not seeking to be the exploiters and dominators. They're fulfilling their kingly obligation, their kingly duty, and whereas the opposing side is coming from the opposite angle. So in this Varnashrama system, of course, is established by Krishna. In fact, in chapter 3, Krishna refers to how he has established this system. And and it's natural throughout the entire world. You can see this system where people have obligations and duties according to their ashrama. May not be called ashrama in the West. It's just like, well, there's students, and then there's single. Well, these days they may not be celibate, but at least they're single. They're students. And as they grow older, then, they get married and become householders and have children. And then they get older, and the kids leave home, and then, they're in the vanaprastha stage. May not go to the forest, but they might downsize their house and live more simply. And, and then they become retired. And so this takes place all over the world. And these are the ashramas of brahmacharya, or studenthood, grihastha, householder, vanaprastha, retired person, and then in a limited number of cases, the sannyasis or the renunciates who renounce the world. And we have our duties according to our occupation. Whether a brahmana is the head of society, the teachers and doctors and advisors and counselors and so on, then the administrative class, the kshatriyas, the warriors whose duty is to protect the people and protect the kingdom, to keep the bad guys in check. Then there's the Vaishyas, or the merchants and farmers, and then the Shudras, or the artisans and tradesmen, and the labourers, and their duty is to serve the higher varnas, because by nature they're just not that good at figuring out what to do, and they're kind of turning to someone and saying, well, tell me what I should do. So this system of Varnashrama Dharma is like the bedrock of Vedic civilization. And so Arjuna, as a prominent member and a leader, has, even more so than others, the great responsibility or the great duty and obligation to fulfill his function as a Kshatriya. And and additionally, of course, he has personal obligations to his elder brother, to his wife, to his other brothers, to the people in general. But anyway, so then Arjuna gets in this point where it's like, well, I don't want to do it. He comes up with a bunch of different reasons. I don't want to do it for this reason and that reason. And in fact, I'm not going to do it. And I'd rather actually go and be a beggar. So in other words, he wants to give up his occupational duty as a Kshatriya and go and become a renunciate, a beggar who's just going to, chant japa all day. Of course, as Krishna says later on in Bhagavad Gita, that you can't renounce your nature. Arjuna, you'll fight. Anyway, by nature, you'll be engaged in fighting. So it's a bit like, say, if Arjuna leaves the battlefield and just hangs out in a cave somewhere and is a beggar, well, as he's doing that, he'll come across some injustice taking place. Maybe someone's being robbed, or someone's being assaulted, or maybe they're being wrongfully evicted, or something like this. And then just by nature, by Arjuna's natural tendency, he will automatically get involved and try and protect the weaker party, the one who's being wronged. This will just happen by itself. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna, by your nature, you will be engaged in warfare. So this is the nature of the Kshatriya. They just naturally protect. And so anyway, so Arjuna is essentially abandoning his duty or his dharma, his responsibility, and Krishna's basically trying to talk some sense into him. And so Krishna has begun by teaching Arjuna the basic ABCDs of spiritual life, that you're not this body, that you're spiritual in essence, you're spirit soul, you can't die, you can't kill anyone, so the soul is Nitya, eternal, Sanatana, eternally an individual soul. It's imperishable, immutable, doesn't come into being, has not come into being, will not come into being. Imperishable. Anyway, Krishna, describes in many different ways, and actually is kind of repetitive in some of the words he uses to try and get this point across to Arjuna, that you can't kill anyone anyway. You can't kill the soul. You can't kill the soul. So after where we left off last week at text 25, Krishna has kind of summarized a little bit, chapter 2, text 25, where he says, it is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So up to this point, Krishna has been talking about the soul, and that, the soul can't be killed, so you shouldn't grieve. Right? So, but now Krishna takes a slightly different tack. So he's he's talked about all this sort of spiritual knowledge about the soul, the Atma, that it's can't be killed, and so on and so forth. And so now Krishna changes tack. So Krishna says, "Atha chainam nityadatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapi tvam mahabaho nainam soshitu mahasi." If, however, athacha, so this is like changing the subject. Okay, I've said all this stuff. Now I'm changing the topic. So if, however, you think that the soul, or the symptoms of life, is always born and dies forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. So it's like complete change of topic. Okay, I've talked all about the soul in accordance with the Vedic literatures and the sacred scriptures, and so even if you don't accept any of that, if you essentially think that the soul or the symptoms of life just come into existence at the birth of the body or at conception in the womb, and die forever when the body dies, still you have no reason to lament. So it's like whether you're looking at it from a point of view of understanding Krishna's teachings here about that you're spiritual in essence and not the body, and that you don't die when the body dies, and that never was there a time when you did not exist, nor me, nor all these kings here. So me, you, and others. We always existed in the past, and we always exist in the future. So even if you don't understand this and can't get your head around it and don't really accept it, or still even from a materialistic viewpoint, you still have no reason to lament. And always like this, no reason to lament, it's always about essentially no reason to not perform your duty. Right? Arjuna is given a bunch of reasons about why he shouldn't have to perform his dharma or his duty. And Krishna is now telling him, look mate, even if you don't understand anything about the soul or don't accept the existence of the soul, then still you have no reason to not engage in your dharma or your duty. You got no reason to lament. So Baladev Vidyabhusana puts it like this, that Krishna has given his own opinion on why one should not lament for the soul. The Lord now speaks of the opinion of others in order to give other viewpoints. So in this little sequence of verses, from 26 to 29, which is 4 verses, Krishna is, even though some of the verses sound in accordance with what he's been saying before, and of course they all are, he's giving the viewpoints of others, sort of giving others opinions. And so this is kind of, we can learn from this that in our daily activities and in our speaking with others, we don't necessarily just have to have one point and just keep repeating it and bashing it home and saying it in the same way. We can look at things from different viewpoints and present alternative viewpoints. And so this is a good thing to do. We can follow Krishna's example here of presenting different viewpoints. So, in a sense, Krishna here changes direction, and he's more or less like accepting, for argument's sake, that consciousness is ephemeral. That it's born with the body and dies when the body dies. So this is essentially, as Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada points out, this is essentially the modern material scientist or the atheistic viewpoint, that consciousness is ephemeral. Like, so the Vedic viewpoint is that consciousness is a symptom of the soul. The presence of the soul is known by the fact that there is consciousness. And in fact, later in chapter 14, I think it is, no, 13, that Krishna likens the, that the soul's presence in the body is seen by consciousness, which the soul's presence lights up the body with consciousness, just as how the sun lights up the universe. Yatha prakashaya yekaha kritsnam loka mimam ravihi kshetram kshetrikata kritsnam prakashayati tat param. So just as the sun lights up the universe, the soul's presence lights up the body with consciousness. So wherever there's a soul, there's consciousness. This is the symptom of the soul. The soul is conscious. This is the nature of the soul. It's conscious. Water is wet, the soul is conscious. So, but the atheistic viewpoint, and as Srila Baladev Vijayabhusana and the different acharyas, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada points out in his purport, that also many Buddhists have this same philosophy, that consciousness comes into existence when the body comes into existence, and then it ceases when the body dies. It's ephemeral. So even if we just accept this argument of the atheists and the Buddhists, that the consciousness is ephemeral, that it's born with the body and dies when the body dies, then even if we accept this argument, still there's nothing to lament. So that the Buddhists, they do not believe in the existence of a self. They see consciousness as a product of conditions and changes from moment to moment. And Baladev Vijayabhusana and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they refer to Vaibhashika Buddhists. And so after reading a little bit about this in Baladev Vijayabhusana's commentary and in Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami's commentary on it, and actually in some of his lectures, he also spoke on this. I tried to, did a Google search, Vaibhashika, and so I read up a little bit about it, and it's like, man, it's the most confusing thing. Like, I could not understand it. It's like just the most confusing thing, right? They basically don't believe in the existence of a self. Their idea of karma and dharma and reincarnation, etc., is just very confusing because they don't accept the existence of a spiritual self or a constant. So it's quite strange. Also in their commentaries, they refer to the materialists such as Chavaka Muni, and so it's one of the philosophies in India, a great philosopher in India, but essentially a atheist. They consider the body to be the self, which is born, dies, and changes at every moment. So Baladev Vijayabhusana makes the point that in both of these philosophies, either the Buddhist no-self theory or the materialist Chavaka Muni's theory that the body is the self, that you are the body, that in both these philosophies there should be no lamentation for the Atma. So in effect, Baladev Vijayabhusana paraphrases what Krishna is saying. He's saying in these two philosophies there is no fear of sin continuing into the next life, since there is no next birth, and there is unavoidable creation and destruction of the selves, the body, whose very nature is to change. So Arjuna had in one of his reasons why he didn't want to fight, he'd said, well, I don't want to fight because, I'll incur sin, right? To engage in warfare is sinful. So Arjuna said in the first chapter, sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. Right? And why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? So Arjuna was very concerned about sinfulness. Okay, and so why is there any concern about sinfulness? It's because if one engages sinfully, then one will experience, in other words, that's bad karma, right? So acting in a sinful way, then that means one will suffer in the next life. One will suffer even in this life, one will suffer after the end of this body, and then one will get an unfortunate birth, and one won't get to go to Swaga, or the heavenly planets, which was like within the Vedic society was a goal, right? To ascend to heaven, where one can live a long lifetime and have a much better situation than one has in this middle planet of Earth. So, so the whole concept is based upon reincarnation and that we, at the end of this body we continue to exist. And so this whole idea of talking about I shouldn't be sinful. So then Krishna is sort of saying to him, well, if even if you don't understand my reasons about not fighting because you can't kill anyone anyway, even if you take it from this atheistic philosophical viewpoint, there's still no point about you talking about incurring sin. Because in these two philosophies, there is no fear of sin continuing into the next life, since there is no next birth, and there is unavoidable creation and destruction of the selves, or the body, whose very nature is to change. So in this verse, Krishna calls Arjuna Mahabaho, which means, O mighty armed one. And so this is this is almost Krishna being cynical or sarcastic, because to say, even, Arjuna, even if you're so foolish to submit to such an understanding, in other words, to accept these atheistic or Buddhistic philosophies, still you should fight. As Krishna says, you still have no reason to lament. Right? So even if you accept this nonsense philosophy that the soul is always born and dies forever, still you should fight. So Baladeva Vijayabhusana paraphrases it like this: O mighty armed one, you being the best of warriors following Vedic tradition, should not hold such wrong views. So in other words, Arjuna, in fact, Bhaktivedanta puts it a little bit this way. He says, but at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabaho, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. So Arjuna is a mighty armed warrior, a Kshatriya, as if he could accept such an atheistic or Buddhistic philosophy. And so Krishna is kind of sarcastically goading him like this. So in his purport on this verse, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami says the modern material scientist and materialist philosophies also think similarly. This is similar to the Lokayatikas, or the followers of Shavaka Muni, atheists, and Vaibhashikas, the Buddhists. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. Currently, many pseudo-religions, now becoming fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. So even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. So this brings, Srila Prabhupada has explained in his Who Are You book, the value of the chemicals that make up the body. He estimated it, maybe it's worth around $20, right? If, all the different chemicals, if you could somehow convert them into chemicals, chemical elements, that at most it's worth like $20, right? So, if you have something worth $20, or $20 worth of chemicals, if you're a scientist working in a lab and somehow you, it's a bit like when you cook dinner, right? Maybe you bought your ingredients and you kind of like, you overcook it and it's like, oh God, I got to throw it away, so except that's kind of a bit more personal because you personally spent the $20. But say you're at work and you're working in a lab and you do a science experiment and you kind of do it wrong and damn it, I wasted that $20 worth of chemicals. It's like, well, okay, well, there's no big lamentation about it. It's a bit like that's a bummer, okay, no good, and then on with it, on with the next thing, right? So in other words, as Bhaktivedanta Swami says, no one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. So we have to, this is the context of Arjuna wanting to not do his prescribed duty. He's lamenting about what he's going to have to do, and so he's like not wanting to do his duty. Which in Vedic terms is just, just the worst thing. I've kind of spoken probably way too many times about the, that how in the West everything is about rights and entitlements. That it's my right. I have the right to do this particular thing or that particular thing, and I have an entitlement. I'm entitled to my, whatever it is. I think I'm entitled to. I remember in Australia when I was younger, there used to be like what was called the Bob Hawke surf team. Bob Hawke was the Prime Minister of Australia, and the surf team was all the people on the dole. The unemployment benefit. It's not like here in America where you get unemployed and maybe you get 6 months worth of benefit and after that, hey, you're on your own. It was like, no, you can get on the dole for your entire life. And I believe they've tightened it up a bit since then, but that's the way it was. And, people felt entitled to it. I'm entitled to my dole. I'm entitled to be supported by the government. And so this is kind of the attitude, rights and responsibility. You can't infringe on my rights, So it's all a very sort of self-centered thing about me and my rights and me and my entitlements. Whereas in the Vedic system, there is, of Dharma, there is some rights and there is some entitlements, but these are not the key thing. These are not the most important things. These are very secondary. They just kind of come with it. The key thing is my duty and my obligations and my responsibilities. This is the most important thing. And so, in the Vedic system, one can't consider just not doing it. Like, oh, I woke up today and I just don't feel like doing my duty. It's like, well, no. One does one's duty no matter what. This is the Vedic system. This is one's responsibility and obligation. And, so we, this of course is very important teachings that we can apply to ourselves. It's like, this is what Karma Yoga is, right? I think Tulsi Gabbard kind of talks about it as servant leadership, right? That that the leader is actually a servant of the people, not the exploiter of the people, not the enjoyer of the people. So this is, and as a servant we have responsibilities and obligations and duties and so on, and these are the most important thing, not my entitlement to my salary or so on and so forth. So this is the context of all of the entire Bhagavad Gita, actually, where Krishna is speaking to convince Arjuna to perform his duty. And of course, ultimately, we should always remember and understand, see everything in the context of that at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually tells him, abandon all varieties of Dharma, Sarva Dhamman Parityaja. Just abandon all varieties of Dharma, or duty, responsibilities, obligations. Mamikam Saranam Braja. Just surrender unto me. Just surrender unto me. Mam, me, ekam. One-pointedly. Saranam, surrender. Raja, go with emphasis, but also in the mood of Braja or Vrindavan, the devotees of Krishna's intimate devotees and associates in Vrindavan. So, Sarvadhamam Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Braja. So just abandon all varieties of duty and obligation and responsibilities and just surrender unto me. So this is the... so even though there's this whole sort of context and everything to Bhagavad Gita within Dharma, as I've been sort of talking about it fairly lengthy, at great length here tonight, so still we have to, even though that's so important, this Varnashrama duties and responsibilities, my Swadharma, and so on and so forth, still the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is, Krishna tells Arjuna, forget about all that and just surrender unto me. Aham tvam sava papebhyo makshayashyami masuchaha. So abandon all varieties of duty. Just surrender unto me, and I will protect you from all sinful reaction, I will protect you from any sinful reaction. Masuchaha, don't worry. Have no fear. I will protect you. I will protect you, Arjuna. Just surrender unto me. So you don't need, Arjuna's worried about sinful reaction, if he engages in this fight and kills people, that he's going to be covered in sin, as I read in the first chapter where Arjuna is worried about committing sinful acts. So Krishna tells him, don't worry, I will protect you. So ultimately that's the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So we need to understand this is the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the verses that we're studying, and that's the context of the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna at the beginning, and what I'm speaking on when I speak so much about Dhamma. But ultimately we have to realize that we surrender to Krishna in love, and we do what Krishna wants us to do. This is the most important thing. And we forget about Dharma. conventional materialistic dharma, and we engage in what's known as Sanatana Dharma, which is our eternal Dharma, which is to render service to Krishna. So I mentioned earlier that consciousness is the symptom of the soul. It's actually also service is the symptom of the soul. And our eternal, so this is our Sanatana Dharma, is engaging in service. But our true Sanatana Dharma is service rightly directed, correctly directed to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So no one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. So, my God, so many billions of dollars are spent on the military in the United States and in other countries, but in America it's just like so over the top, how much money is spent on nuclear weapons and conventional weapons and airplanes and ships and tanks and so on and so forth, So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished at every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. It's just living entities everywhere, manifesting, becoming, taking birth and dying at all the time, so what's the big deal? That's kind of the point. If there was no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. So, killing Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya, if there is no rebirth for the soul, if it's just a one-shot deal, you come into existence at birth and cease to exist at death, and there's no afterlife where one reaps the results of one's sinful activities, then it's like, okay, if you accept this philosophy, Arjuna, then you don't need to worry about killing Bhishma and Drona. So anyway, thank you very much. We'll continue next week on this sequence of verses where Krishna kind of puts forward the opinions and viewpoints of others, and then after we finish those few verses, then Krishna becomes very practical, talking about just dealing with Arjuna's role as a Kshatriya and how he's going to feel if he doesn't fight. So from all angles, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll have another Kirtan now. Hari Bol. Coming, Radhisham?
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna. Jaya Jaya. Hari Bol. Hope you have a good night and see you next time.